Great. So, thanks everybody who's going to be joining us here. My name's David-Michel Davies. I'm the executive director of the Webby Awards. We have a really great group of panelists, if you will, today. And we're basically going to be chatting about how young junior designers, people up and coming up to the ranks, students, how they can really improve their portfolio, what the tools are that people are using today. What are the best ways of showcasing your talents in 2015? And like what employers are looking for, and how to get hired and really showcase yourself in a way that's going to get you the job you're looking for. We have three really great guests, all of whom I'm sure do a lot of hiring of creative people. So I think some real insights from people who actually are hiring and looking for great talent all the time. So I just thought, I'd start off, we'll do some introductions and kind of go around. First off, Jim Livingston, she's a creative director at 72 and Sunny in Los Angeles. I'm actually in New York.
Hi.
Yeah. How are you, Jan?
Doing great, thanks.
So, why don't you start off, just tell us a little bit about what you do at 72 and Sunny, and, I would also just love to hear generally, like, what type of what are the tools and technologies that you're seeing people use for portfolios these days that you like the most?
I'm a creative director at 72 and Sunny on Samsung and Fresh and Easy right now. We're just going through a round of hiring, so I've been going through this the past couple of weeks. I remember when I started to get my portfolio out there was when we used laminated posters. But now I really don't see anything other than sites, obviously, which is great because that's the way all of the work should be consumed by consumers. It's kind of rare that any of us are seeing magazine print ads today. And the other thing I love about having a digital site, if I was a young creative, is that it's so responsive and easy to make changes. And I think that that's important, especially when you're getting so much feedback. You don't have to be precious about it as maybe you did before when you were coming in with printed pieces. You're able to respond to feedback. You're able to maybe put some new stuff on there and respond to what's happening in culture right now. And that just kind of sets up good training for being a creative in an agency. You got to be able to be ready to embrace change. Your work is always wet clay and it's always changing. You're always getting new feedback. So that's why I'm kind of loving all these sites coming in.
And where are you finding you get the most amount of work? Is it on your desktop? Is it on your phone, on an iPad, all of those things? Like, should people be really concerned about making sure that it looks great on a phone, or are you guys still mostly looking at stuff like sitting at your desk?
Usually looking at my desk, but I would say 20% of the time I'm looking on mobile experience because I'm out on production. So I think that's important to have your site mobilely optimized. But usually a lot of the sites that are coming in are done on Cargo Collective or Squarespace. Love to hear what you guys are seeing too. Yeah. And that should be easily set up for mobile optimization.
Yeah. Let's go to Mike. Mike is here in New York. He's the managing group creative director at the Barbarian Group. We've had the fortune to get to work with the Barbarian Group here at the Webbies for a long time. Not now, but in the past, and I'm sure in the future. So that's been really great. And I've known Mike for quite a while. Mike, tell us a little bit about what you're working on at Barbarian Group these days.
Yeah, actually, they recently made me head of design.
Oh, sorry.
Whatever that means. No, I don't know what that means either, actually. It just means I have more responsibility.
You have better taste than everybody else.
Thank you, as you can tell. But no, lately I've been, like I said, so I've been sort of touching all the business recently. So I've just been kind of like ramping up because but I was working on a lot of like IBM stuff, a little GE work, and stuff for Samsung as well. We're doing a lot of the internal stuff first, as we're just sort of like redoing a lot of our internal look and feel. So it's been kind of interesting. It's just that stuff's always fun, the internal stuff, because you can sort of do what you want, but it's always the most important, least important work that you have to do. Like everyone needs it, but no one can do it.
Right, right. And how have you found? How are you guys finding people these days? Is it people banging down the door? Is it job, ads? Is it through connections? Obviously, I'm sure it's some combination of that. But How are young people getting to the Barbarian group and getting in there and getting work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've been talking to folks over the internet, like people submit for our job postings, but like we've been going to actually a lot of like student or like college career fairs. We have like a couple of places that we like to recruit from, like the VCU Brand Center. The RIT kids are great. We're going to SCAD this week, so we actively go to these things as well to always look for new talent. But yeah, obviously a lot of it comes through the web, and we're experiencing a lot of that.
Yeah, and just to ask the same question that I asked Jan, how are you? What kind of tools are you seeing that are the best tools right now for young people to sort of share their portfolios with you? Obviously, it's sites, but are there specific sites that are really great, or that you really like as somebody who's looking at lots of portfolios?
Well, I mean, what I've been noticing interesting in some of these like kind of like career fair situations is like these kids have this stuff on an iPad now, and they have a presentation like prepared, and they're like really like getting that down, and they can go through the flow and their narrative and how they want to tell show their own work in the kind of like if they're getting that sort of like salesy aspect of their work down a little bit better. And I've been seeing a lot of the presentations there, which has been really cool actually, because I always thought they didn't teach enough of that in school. Like they teach the thinking of the creative work, but not actually like explaining it or selling it.
Right. Interesting. And what are the ways, are you finding that people are focusing on trying to sell a specific skill, and that's a good thing, or is it trying to show you? I guess I should say, should students focus on trying to show a specific skill, or sort of like the breadth of skills?
I mean, we're always obviously looking for, when we're looking for copywriters, we need somebody that can conceptualize and write. So we are looking for specific skills, but if you actually have a broad set as well, I'm gonna like that, because I'm gonna use that, because we're not really huge, so everyone wears different hats here. So we do look for speciality, but like if you can also do some motion, if you're a designer, you can also do motion, some After Effects, then that's a bonus.
Right. Christina, is it Gliha?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you got it.
Gliha is a creative director at Juniper Park in Toronto. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome.
Pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about what you're working on at Juniper Park these days.
Much like Mike, I pretty much touch everything in the agency. I've been here for 5.5 years. I guess some key stuff right now is I'm working on Miller Beer, which has been really fun. We do a lot of work for EOS also, which is that great lip balm. It's a sphere. Also work for Del Monte and Virgin Mobile. So there's all kinds of fun and exciting stuff happening right now.
Cool. Do you ever have students who are pitching to work on specific, like they come to you because they love a specific client? Is that like a thing, or are they just trying to work specifically with Juniper Park? Or
Virgin actually is a good example. I often have students come and say, I saw the Virgin work that you did, and it really spoke to me, and I want to work at a place that produces work that good.
That's cool.
So that is, that's great. It's very telling to me, and it feels like, very often people will come, and when we talk about don'ts, people will come for interviews and they won't necessarily have a really good grasp of what kind of work the agency has done. Like they'll have quickly perused the website, but they won't have a real understanding of it. And that's always a red flag for me when they haven't, kind of prepared and really thought about what it is about that particular agency, about us specifically, that excites them and appeals to them. So when they come armed with feedback on a campaign and saying that they're excited about it and they loved it for these 5 reasons and why it spoke to them, that is a great sign.
Interesting. Cool. It's a good lesson for people to think about. I mean, it's part of the way you win a great client too, right? Is being
prepared,
super knowledgeable and prepared, and knowing what they're about and why you care about it. So it's very similar. What about you? Just ask the same question. Is there a particular portfolio technology out there that you've really run into that you like, that you would recommend for students to use? Or is it just having a really well-crafted, thought-out online experience?
For me, what site they use is irrelevant, as long as it's very clean and easy to understand. And I think, if I were to talk a little bit about how the site is structured, I think if they can, whether it's Squarespace or Cargo, they all kind of look the same right now. And the great thing about that technology is that it's a real equalizer. And what that does is it removes the interface design from part of the question. And what it does is it makes good work or bad work rise to the top really quickly. You instantly recognize what's good because you're not bothered by the interface. And so so I think that's very, very good for me because I instantly know what to look for. But I think in terms of how the work is structured, I would say try to avoid project work and try to focus on showing case studies that demonstrate 360 thinking. And so even though I know a lot of the students won't have had real project work, even if they've only done one piece for a client, they still have an opportunity to tell a bigger story and go back and create a full-body case study that really addresses every touch point of an experience with a brand. Whether they started with a campaign, they could still show what's the user experience in the store, what's a launch event. So I can see that even though they may not have that real-world experience, that they've been thinking about what the total brand is about.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And just to sort of take that a little bit further, Mike, you talked a little bit about where you guys go to recruit talent and find talent. What about what about people who don't go to those sort of like really known places? How do they get in to see, like, what should they be doing to get into the Barbarian group? Is it really about having a better way of demonstrating their work? Is it about sort of what we were talking about earlier about showing how much they care about the work Barbarian group is doing, or what's the way for them to get to you guys?
I mean, we still have the traditional channels of getting new hires in and just meeting new people. I mean, a lot of it is also like meeting people that know other people as well. Networking is kind of important. Yeah. So it's like I always take recommendations from people I know, trust, or have worked with in the past a lot more seriously, let's say, just because you're vouching for folks. Mm-hmm. So that's I mean, it's kind of huge. It's a big industry, but it's not that big. Everyone knows other people that know somebody, and and if it's between two people that I feel are equally skilled, I'm generally going to go with the person that has experience with somebody that I know. So there is, and we have the recruiters as well, and like the various websites and all that. So all the traditional ways, but we're always trying to look for people that stand out. So we cast a wide net.
Jan, I was going to ask you a little bit more about interviews, and let's assume like somebody has a great portfolio and they've gotten to see you. What are the things that you feel like young people should be doing in interviews to really showcase themselves and to help tell the story about what they want to do and that kind of thing?
I think that usually by the time they get in the door anywhere, we already know that they're there because we love their work. A lot of times juniors come in and it kind of feels like a sales pitch straight off, and you just have to kind of calm them down and get them to a place where they start talking about life and what they're doing outside of that work. I mean, I think what we're looking for is a curiosity for life and a passion for learning. People who like to make things, no matter what it is, if they created a product or a Kickstarter page or a Tumblr they're doing with their friends, those are the kind of things that we want to hear about. And we're also looking for a cultural fit at that moment. We're going to see if they feel like they're open, collaborative. Do they feel like the work gets better when they're working with a team? That's the kind of emotional maturity that you're kind of wanting beyond the book. And thinking about, is this the person that you and your team are going to want to spend time with at 3 a.m. after a couple of weeks of hard work?
Yeah, I mean, you touched a little bit on the moderation there. One sort of follow-up question would be, dealing with criticism. And obviously, I think, creative professionals have to deal with commentary on their work like every minute of the day, I would imagine. How do you sort of think about, or how can young people develop how can they get better at dealing with that, I guess, other than just getting lots of criticism all the time?
I think that's a hard part of starting out in the business, and it is a learned skill. At 72, we try to think of the ideas as not being precious. Like when you have it, put it out there to the group, put it out there to the world, so it becomes everyone's to build off of. So it doesn't feel like there's so much pressure on that one person to stand up and have a ta-da moment or a presentation. So I think you get comfortable with that, and get comfortable, once again, with change. It takes a while to learn that being open to criticism really is helpful. So if you get in the mindset that you are always in prototype mode, or you as a creative person are always in beta, that your idea can only get better, that, you know, kind of lets that criticism just like roll off you, and you take it in and think, okay, I need to process that and see how that's going to push the work further.
Yeah. Jan,
it's a really, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's a really freeing moment once you get past that, once you start to look at criticism that way, and you know, you spend a lot less time thinking in the past and thinking about what went wrong, and just moving forward.
Yeah. Jan, do you feel like that's something that junior creatives are generally getting better with or worse with? You know, like sort of like, is the trend that people are getting more accustomed to taking feedback really well and working collaboratively, or is it sort of the same as it's always been? Is it always a challenge?
I'm super impressed with junior creatives that come through the door. I wasn't as confident as they were when I started, and I think I took it harder. So I think it's getting better. It might just be, you know, a generational change, just about the way that they look at the world, and it might be process they're going through in their portfolio schools, that they are already working in a collaborative setting, is becoming more of a teamwork culture. But there are those moments when you see, you know, that look grow across their face, or the way they walk out of a meeting, and it's important to grab them at those times and kind of talk through it and talk them off the ledge.
Christina, what do you think about that? Is that
I completely
true with you?
Yeah, no, I think Jen nailed it on the head. I think, you know, really instilling in them that work is an ever-evolving thing, and to not take things too much to heart, not to dwell on it, but also just to really try to pick out what's useful from it and move on, and to be able to distinguish. You know, it's different depending on who is giving you the feedback. You know, sometimes you have to really consider the source and question, you know, is this personal preference, or is this based on solid strategy? And that's when you can really help yourself kind of pick out the useful pieces of feedback and apply them.
Right. Mike, how about what's your perception of young designers and criticism and collaboration these days?
Well, I mean, I think it's because we put so much of ourselves into the work and the thinking and the creative and solving the problems that, you know, it gets very precious. And I try to remind the guys to kind of not get too deep into stuff, because, you know, when you craft something so much lovingly at the early stage, you spend so much time with it, then it's just, the pressure just kind of creeps in, and just being able to like kind of keep your distance and also have a constructive conversation. Like, yeah, you get the criticism, you have to know the why. If you have the why they didn't like it, or why they should change, that you can kind of go back and forth, and it's taking the positive stuff that Christina was saying out of it, like being able to like figure that stuff out.
So how do you when you guys are looking at portfolios, and you're, you know, a lot of times I'm sure you're looking at work that the person contributed to, but wasn't necessarily, you know, that we're talking about collaboration here, so a lot of these things are collaborative. How do you have that conversation about, how important is it to you, that conversation about what they contributed versus what other people contributed, and is that like a big deal? You're looking at numbers on a screen, sometimes it's unclear, you know, somebody worked on something, it's unclear what they did on it. Mike, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, usually I look for that on the side if I'm not talking to the person, to see what their responsibilities were, because some of these larger projects you'll see coming out, everyone touched it at some point. You know, like if it's unclear, then I usually, if I meet them, I specifically ask them what they did, and what their responsibilities were, how they contributed, and but on the web, sometimes we just shoot them a note like, oh, hey, we saw this thing, we really liked it. You know, what'd you do? Because it was like a huge project.
Right. Interesting. What about you, Jan?
You can usually tell, too, by looking at the body of the work on the site. You can get a feel for their voice as a copywriter or a designer or technologist, what part they had in it, you know, because obviously they're working on a lot of different projects with a lot of different people, and you can get a sense of their creative style. and then when you meet them in person, just asking about the creative process of that project, you can also see the moment when they light up or when they when they have ownership over that part that they were really a strong part of. That helps tell the story.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, right? Because on some level, we're asking and saying people should be working collaboratively together, and then we're asking them to like send through a portfolio, which is essentially pieces of collaboration, and then they're supposed to sort of be honest about what they did, but also be sharing sort of the process that they went through. It's not the most obvious thing for young people to navigate, I think. Would you agree? Christina?
Absolutely. The website is an opportunity to talk about that authentically and list the team members that you worked with. It's really great when you see someone junior who's worked with someone else in the industry. There's a credibility exchange there, by association. And then obviously just through questioning, as Jen and Mike said, that the interview is that opportunity where you get to demonstrate your thinking behind the project and what you contributed.
Right. So I think last question for all three of you. We'll start with Mike, which is, what do you wish you would know now? You're a seasoned director. I'm sorry, I was going to say director of design, head of design of the Barbarian Group. What do you wish you had known when you were, making laminated posters?
Yeah, I wish I knew how much talking I'd be doing at this stage. It seems to be like this disparity that as you go up higher, you do less things and talk more. But it's that talking part actually that is important. I kind of talked about earlier where we talk about explaining our process and selling the work and all that. I never got in school. I got the thinking and the how to be creative and all that stuff, but like I was intuitively good at it. So it was kind of hard for me to break it down and explain to somebody that doesn't get it as much because I was surrounded by people that thought this in the same way as me, that spoke the same language. So translating that to other people, like, for example, clients that might not be naturally inclined to creative thinking or aesthetics, and getting it from being like random and arbitrary, but to be a conscious decision-making process is important.
Right. Interesting. So really learning how to explain the work as much as making the work. Yeah.
Because I could show you something, you probably go, "That's great," but some people are like, "I think I hate it," but I don't know why. And then you tell them, "Oh, this is what we were thinking. This is how we kind of came to the decision." And they go, "Okay, I do hate it, but here's why." And they can have a conversation.
Right. I hate it. I hate when I say I hate it. What about you, Christina? What do you wish you had known as a young, or now that you're seasoned?
I completely agree with Mike. I think that you have to remove the arbitrary. You have to sell your ideas. People think that selling is dirty and gross, and that being creative, the creative act is the doing of the work. But selling it is just as important, if not more important, than the work in a way, because you have to take the client on a journey and you have to make them fall in love with an idea before you ever reveal it. So being rooted in a solid strategy and a narrative and being able to talk about your work intelligently and emotionally, and when I say emotionally, I mean passionately, is critical. And I think that that's what separates truly successful people in this industry. You think about the Don Draper character. I mean, it's because he can tell a story in a magnetic way that is rooted in a real insight. And so I think that even when you're coming in for an interview, you're still selling yourself. And it's not in a game show host type of way. You just really need to know your work and the thinking behind it so that you can articulate it in a way that helps not only demonstrate your role and what you did and why it was good, but why someone would want to buy it.
Right, and I mean, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the interview too, right? Which is somebody you can talk about why they think that working with you, will motivate them and make them passionate, and why it's a good fit, right? Which is kind of the same thing about selling an idea. Jan, what did you want to? Could you add to that at all? Just in terms of like, what did you wish you had known as back then that you know now? Oh, I can't hear you.
Is it unmuted now? You guys have me muted? I was just saying a lot of stuff I wish I would have known then. I agree with Christina and Mike. That's a really important skill. That's probably isn't something that juniors are working on. we encourage juniors here to go take UCB classes or any kind of an improv class that's around them, because that helps with a lot of that confidence and being able to talk, in the moment, and also to pass off to your team members.
Right.
I also wish I would have known that when I'm taking my first job, or any job that you're taking, don't take it because of the brands they have, or the campaign that you want to work on. Really think about the culture that you're about to walk into. Is it a culture that goes with your personality? Are you excited to learn from these people, whether it's from the creatives or the philosophy of the agency? Because that can have a lot to do with your success, and also how much you learn and improve over a short period of time. And then the last thing I would say is, I wish I would have known when I was young to ask for what you want. I don't think young people are very good at that. They're getting better, but I think it took me, maybe even 10 years to realize that. But if you want to be on a project, go let everybody who will listen know that you want to be on that project. If you want to work with a partner or a creative director because you really admire them, let everybody know. Let the creative director know. Don't be intimidated. And the same for your first job. If you want to work for that agency, go for it.
Awesome. Some really great advice for young designers and creatives coming up. Just to sort of sum up a few of the things we talked about, especially around portfolios, really being able to explain your work, take just like you're taking a client through a journey to sell an idea, be able to take the person who ultimately might be hiring you through a journey, understanding what your work is about and what really motivates you. Being super open to collaboration and criticism seems to be an important thing that young people should be thinking about. And then, I think this other point about culture is a big thing. I'm sure you guys would all agree on, really making sure that you're going to a place that you'll feel like you can fit in and get into. So. I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really great. Good discussion. I think it'll be really nice for young creative directors to get a chance to hear your thoughts. And thanks to Vitamin T, our sponsor, with Webby Connect, for helping support it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you guys.